What screams I'm way richer than I look? Wearing a t-shirt and jeans in a room of people wearing suits. My company CEO does this all the time. I recently went to get a car wash. I sat next to and talked to a guy who was wearing Crocs and sweats. His clothes looked new, just not expensive. He got into a newer model Porsche Panamera. That guy was rich. Or a valet. Or a car thief. They avoid any discussion of money. When paying for anything they like to do it privately / quietly / before anyone else is aware, so you end up walking in and out of places feeling like you haven't paid, almost as if money doesn't exist. They don't flaunt it. Source: I was dating a girl and didn't realize she and her whole family were rich until her dad picked us up for dinner in a brand new Mercedes, proceeded to pay for everything during our trip, and our Christmas presents were first-class flights to the US, from Australia, for a ski holiday. That's around or $10-15K, used $7-11K, per person. He also financially supports his other daughter at Cornell University / living in the US. I grew up poor, and still am, lol, but I never realized how poor until I met that family. Oh God. I dated a rich girl in high school but didn't realize it until it was time to meet her dad. She had me meet them at a restaurant that there was absolutely no way I could have afforded the tip, let alone my meal. It was awkward, for me, at least, assuming I wasn't going to pay anything when the check came. Not knowing prices for common household items / foodstuffs. Either they're getting the super deluxe version and don't know the standard price, or they haven't done their own food shopping for years. Edit: to clarify, it's not about knowing the exact price of a product, most don't, but having no real conception of even a ballpark figure. Being used to buying vastly more expensive things, they guess what they believe to be cheap, yes, like Bill Gates' appearance on Ellen. It's one banana. What could it cost? $10. Back in high school I used to do rowing, and at the rowing club there was this guy who wasn't great at socializing, was a little awkward, but he was friendly so I didn't mind him. We often went out on the same boats and would talk to each other, as much as was possible while rowing, and at the end his dad would always pick him up afterwards wearing sweatpants, slippers and a hoodie. You might understand why, then. I didn't believe my friend when he told me that they were one of the richest families in the world. I looked them up, and sure enough, there they were, worth an estimated $15.5 billion. Now whenever I see someone out in public looking like they're wearing what they slept in, I always assume they're mega rich and don't care about a thing anymore. Poor or really rich is a fun game to play. Unique or somewhat odd collections of things most people don't collect. I worked in a high-end whiskey store for many years, and the number of shabbily dressed men from overseas who strode in to spend $5,000, $10,000 on whiskey for their collection was staggering. They were always chatty, knowledgeable, and above all casual. One man in particular had been collecting for decades. His wife was fully supportive. She had her own collection of rare items, he implied, and he enjoyed traveling the world to pick them up as an excuse to go someplace. Conversations often went like this. Customer: I see from your website you have the rare bottling from 1967. Do you have any in stock now? Me: we do, yes. It's downstairs. In fact, we have a few of that vintage, as well as the 1953, 1966, and 1972. Would you like to know the prices? Customer: oh, great. I think that fills a couple of gaps in my collection. And if not, the guys and my wife will enjoy cracking one open. Can you package them up for me, please? Me: would you like to know how much they are, sir? Customer: can you ship them all to my place? In fact, if you have discounts for bulk items, I'd like to know what other vintages you have. And so on. When asked about their income, they respond with "I'm comfortable" without elaborating. I went to dinner with a GF and her parents. After we ate, the owner came out and asked how the meal was, and then we left without a bill ever coming to the table. On the way home I asked GF about it, and she said her dad had tabs at all the restaurants he liked to eat at. As we were leaving, the valet brought the cars around and I mentioned I liked his Tahoe. I asked what year it was and he kind laughed and said whatever is the newest one. I didn't know he owned a car dealership in another city. I represented a guy who was/is rich. I mean as in filthy. Owns buildings, plural, in Manhattan. I was in-house counsel to his company. So one day he comes to my office and tells me he needs me to go to a meeting with him cross town and about 30 blocks north. He tells me to wait, he has to get the car. So I am standing on the street, and he pulls up in the company van that his employee use for building maintenance, to carry stuff to renovate spaces for new tenants, etc. It's pretty crappy. On the way I asked him why he was driving this. All things considered, he was an older self-made guy who was pretty down to earth. Why the van? He said obviously he could drive or take a cab, years before Uber, but why bother? In Manhattan most spaces in Midtown on down are parking for commercial vehicles only, and parking a car can be pricey. The van had commercial plates, so he could pretty much park in front of wherever he was going. Why waste money on a cab or parking a car? Couldn't argue with that. We parked right in front of the building. There's a prominent airline executive in Ireland who infamously bought a taxi license for his personal driver for similar reasons. When people think of expensive clothing, they often think of fancy brands like Gucci, but really rich people usually consider these brands to be tacky for the most part. There are entire luxury brands of suits/dresses/clothing/watches/etc. that are used to display wealth among upper class people that would be kind of innocuous to the average person. Most anyone could recognize a Rolex, but to a person who isn't in on upper class mores, a Patek Philippe might slip under their nose. The fact that a watch can cost as much as a decent sized house astounds me. Brands that are so expensive that us poor people haven't heard them. That's how I've seen my tools as of late. When I first started working, I would buy the cheapest brand of tools just to have them. I worked for guys that owned really nice tools that they had bought 10 to 15 years before and still used them. I saw one called Field Piece and asked how much he paid for the multimeter. I had just bought my first one at $30. He bought his for $240 and had a lifetime service warranty on them. Within a couple of months, mine stopped working. There is a reason why people spend thousands on their tools. Status symbols are for the lower classes and the climbers. The wealthy just live in whatever is comfortable to them. I work at a luxury resort. People call to book rooms with me all day and they aren't cheap. I can tell when it's obvious a young couple who had to scrape together the dough for the cheapest room. But every once in a while I'll get a call from someone who casually calls and asks to book the biggest room without asking for the price. They know exactly what they want and the price means nothing to them. $2.5K a night. No biggie. Here is my card number. The type that nonchalantly offers you a spot in their luxury box at a game or concert, or covers your course fees at a golf outing even though you barely know them. Knew a gentleman that lived fairly modest. One time mentioned I was looking forward to going to NBA game for the local team. He said, "Oh, that's nice, if you stop by the office I give you some better seats." I didn't think much of it but did need to go by the office for work. Checked in at the front. "Hey, I am so and so and here to see boss." "Oh, hello, I have your courtside tickets and he will be down in a few to sign your form." She handed me 5 courtside seats. He had them for every game in case he or a customer wanted to go. Not flexing your stupid brand clothing. Really rich people don't wear clothes with a big brand on display because they don't make free publicity for anyone. For clothes they have specific shops who could tailor them high quality clothes, purses or shoes anytime. My boss drives a $2,000 Mercedes from the 80s, usually wears jeans and shitty clothes at all times, no jewelry or watch, owns a $150K used house. He's worth $2 billion. Yeah, all his liquid income is sent directly to the mechanic for maintaining the Mercedes. Not quite. Mercedes from the 80s are some of the most reliable cars ever made. One of my high school brothers is fucking rich, while rest of us are very normal. He did nothing special, but he always wander around at near shops after school, some random branded shop that no high school boys will ever need. One time we finally asked him why he didn't went back home after school. He said he is waiting for his driver to come. Another time I met him very coincidentally at the boarding place at the airport. I was going to Vienna, and he is to London. He has nothing on him, no bags or carriages, and his hair is wet. Turns out he just took a shower in the lounge. Afterward, we are still very good friends. Man, I've been in those airport lounges a few times. You really live life when you can actually go there normally, rather than through some exception. Going on multiple family vacations a year and not bringing back many trinkets. What screams I'm way richer than I look? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you wanna see more videos like this one.